Hello, everyone, and welcome to Move, Crush, Count. This is a podcast where we learn how achievers are changing business growth strategies. The Move, Crush, Count podcast, we specialize in delivering content from experts that will help your business grow. And we do that by interviewing top leaders so we can discover how you can strike back against a world that's trying to marginalize and commoditize you. So if you desire to differentiate yourself, you want to combat being marginalized, you want to learn from other successful business leaders, then Move, Crush, Count's the podcast for you. So today's interview is sponsored by J&L Marketing. J&L is a digital and direct marketing agency that delivers results with strategies that are going to help you outsmart your toughest competitors so you don't have to outspend them. The title of today's interview is the Mastermind Group Model for the Ultra Successful, How to Make It Work. And we've got two great business leaders with us today. I want to welcome Laurie Halter and the Solutionist himself, Sandy Cerami. Welcome, you guys.
What's up,
How
buddy?
y'all doing? Doing good. So this is a topic that I am extremely excited for a lot of different reasons. One, I love learning from great people, top business leaders, top business minds. I love picking the brains of those people, seeing where I can apply different things to my own businesses. But at the same time, we have our own thing, right? We do our own mastermind type stuff as well. And so we've seen the impact it can have on others. So I think, this is an opportunity for us. We'll talk a little bit about that later in the show, but this is an opportunity to talk about the process of it, how to get the most out of it, right? If you're someone looking to join some type of mastermind group, what should you look for? I want to set the stage here. What should you look for? What are the type of people you want in the group? What are you trying to get out of it? If you're running your own masterminds, what's the best things you could do? What are some of the processes and steps you could take so the people attending get the most value out of it? So those are the things I think we want to talk about today. Most people know you, but not everybody. So, Laurie, you're obviously a phenomenal PR person. I mean,
so great. Thank you so much. I love that you said almost everyone knows you. It's not even close.
Well, that's the way it works in social media,
Scott,
right?
is to make sure that everybody knows who her clients are, and she's an expert at that for sure.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yes.
That is true. And the reality is this, with social media, we think everyone watches everything we do and sees every post. And
yes, and that's true, right? That's exactly the way it
political affiliation, Scott.
I like the one insurance commercial with the mayhem guy. You know who I'm talking. And it's the one where he's pretending to be the young girl doing a TikTok.
Oh yes, that's so amazing.
Tremendous.
And he goes, "This is going to get tens and tens of views." So,
oh my gosh, have you guys seen Steve's? Okay, not to take us off topic, but have you seen Steve's TikToks from? Oh my gosh, what's his company now?
Drive Centric.
Yes, Drive Centric.
Oh, I have. They're great.
Yeah. Hysterical. He'll act like a teen girl, and it cracks me up.
He's one of the few people in the world that I have hair envy for.
Yeah, his hair is pretty phenomenal.
He is fried, dried, and laid to the side, man.
I have a good friend up in New York, your neighborhood, your neck of the woods there, Sandy, in New York City, who came in for Derby one year. All right. And his hair is as silver can be. And he plays it up. I mean, it is spiked to here.
Yeah.
All right. And we're at Jeff Ruby's. And this is the Thursday before the Kentucky Oaks. So it's packed. You got a bunch of celebs in there. You got all this stuff going on. And celebs are getting up on stage and singing. And he goes out to smoke a cigarette. And the band's outside or on break. And they ask, where he's from. He's from New York. And he used to sing in a band and this and that. They bring him up on stage.
No way.
They brought him up on stage. Everybody in the bar assumed because of his hair that he was a celebrity and they just didn't know who he was. Everyone's like, who is that guy again? I know I recognize him. And even Jeff Ruby goes, who is this guy? Who's this guy?
That's amazing.
And I'm like, he's just a friend from New York.
Well, Jeff
The
Ruby,
best
I
is
mean,
if they started saying like, "Oh yeah, no, I do know him. I met him back
I
like
know
10
who he
years
is.
ago
Yeah.
in
I
backstage."
follow him on TikTok. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff Ruby,
Yeah, that's funny.
listen, we were at Derby a couple months back, which, by the way, Scott, such a great call on your part for us to do that. But meeting Jeff Ruby and experiencing the eccentricity of that
Oh, yeah.
man was, I mean, one of the more memorable moments of my Derby weekend for sure.
He would actually be a good person, and not to jump right into the mastermind stuff, because I want you guys to introduce yourself a little bit in case some people do not know you. But Jeff would actually be or his daughter, Brittany, would be an outstanding person to bring into one of our own masterminds,
Agreed.
especially when it comes to client experience and hospitality, because I love bringing in people from different business verticals that accomplish at a much higher level what we're trying to accomplish, whether it's through client experiences and
Sure.
things such as that. So it would be they'd be an outstanding person to bring in. Maybe we'd get a discount if we took people there too, if they were part of the program.
Possible.
There you go. I mean, always working, right?
But I tell you, it's worth every penny. And I would suspect that the three of us have eaten at some of the finer steakhouses across the country. And I will have, it's for me, it's my favorite place to go. The ambiance in that place is off the charts.
Yeah.
All right, so Scott, you just clipped that and then you send it to Jeff Ruby, like about those discounts.
Yeah.
Sandy was talking on the interview.
It's a well-deserved accolade.
We wanted to go there. We wanted to go there in September for part of our event. We outgrew it. They don't have the back private room
Right.
goes up to 49 people, and
Wow.
we'll be, and that's slamming people in at 49. We can't fit that in there anymore. So, and I tried to get them to cater over to LTS, but it's too big of a group for that outside their spot. So, all right. So let's introduce everybody here. Let's get everybody up to speed on who you guys are. So Laurie, we will start with you.
Okay.
Should I start? Well, should I go age before beauty? What should I do? Should I start with you, or should we go?
I don't know. That you don't.
First
go
of all,
age
she wins on both counts. Okay,
Yeah.
she wins on both counts. Let's get that out of the way. But it should be ladies first.
As we all know, I'm 19, so I mean, for sure, I would be last.
All right, Laurie, you're out of the gate. Tell us a little bit first off on not just who you are, but what are some of the experiences you've had in different businesses? You're a great connector of people. You're a great connector of people, and a lot of masterminds. A lot of people think the only thing you get out of a mastermind group is sitting there and, oh, here's an idea I can use.
Right.
It's the relationships and the connections you form as well that can lead to huge breakthroughs. Yeah. You're a great connector of people. So if you could share not only who you are, but some of your experiences and your background that people can relate to as on the mastermind topic type thing.
Yeah. So Laurie Halter, I've owned Charisma Communications, which is a PR technology company, mainly in the automotive tech space. And then I also host a careering podcast, which you both will be on in the near future. And you'll be my first male guests, which is very exciting.
Oh, wow.
It's
well, Scott has not clearly identified yet. So
yeah, I was going to say.
I can tell you, I will be the first male guest.
Normally,
it is you two. Maybe you're not my first male guest.
Normally, I like to joke around and say things like, well, business is about to pick up. But if we're your first male guest, business might take a dive. Business might take a dive.
So no, I have the podcast, but I've had the privilege of being at a number of different conferences, both as a speaker, as a moderator. I've helped clients get speaking opportunities at conferences, and I've been asked to help kind of promote different conferences. So I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different things. And I see Mastermind is really starting to be one of the more interesting formats that are coming from the conference. Because for folks like you, as you said, I'm a huge connector. I'm all about relationships. And Sandy, I know you are too, and Scott, you are too. That's why we all get along so well. But really the mastermind, I think the hidden gem of the mastermind is really that one-on-one connecting and that back and forth of ideas during the actual event. So you're not sitting in a conference room listening to someone lecture and drone on at the front of the room, you're really getting these and making these connections and having this interaction with everyone at your table that, in my mind, is so much more impactful than any other type of conference I've been a part of.
Yeah. Sandy, how about you? Who is the solutionist?
I'm here for comic relief, Scott. That's it. I add
And good hair.
Well,
expertise.
We're in trouble.
Yeah. Listen, Laurie laughs at all my jokes. You, on the other hand, have no sense of humor. So I don't try and make you laugh any longer.
That's right. That's right. I'm the important one here, boys.
You are not kidding. You are not kidding. The glue. You are the tie that binds, young lady. But listen, Scott, in any other forum, you and I would have a lot of explaining to do hanging around with teenage girls. Okay. In this forum, it's okay.
I love it. All right, keep it going. Keep it going.
So what's going on? So Sandy Cerami and Associates, my right-hand guy, got to mention him, got to give him a shout out, Ron Marvo, hard at work right now. And Scott, when I was in for Derby, I showed you our new SCA 365 recruiting platform, subscription-based, placement fee-based, but really highly effective. And we've exploded out of the gate with that. And Ron has really taken the bull by the horns. He's been the busiest guy in the business, if you will, over the course of the last few months as we've onboarded new clients. And it's, it's greater than our greatest expectations at this point. And then the other piece for us is the 7 pillars of killer business development, which takes sales and really brings the marketing piece into it. A lot of what I've learned from you and Jamil over the last, 6 or 7 years, we have woven into the 7 pillars platform, but we are killing it. We've gone outside of automotive with that. You and I have talked about that offline as well the last couple of days. Some really big clients, national clients that are non-automotive that we signed. And then the last thing I will tell you is that we just put together a strategic partnership with a leadership development team led by a former Navy SEAL and former FBI tactical SWAT team member, as well as his tactical SWAT team commander, who was a personal friend of mine. So we're excited. We got a lot going on.
Wow.
That's cool.
Do not have them looking at my age reference on the show.
Don't worry about it. I'm just waiting for them to hit me with the background clearance. I'm not going to make it, guys. Let me just tell you right now. You'll need to send the reconnaissance team in to find me.
So let's jump right into how can our audience get the most out of a mastermind group? So I think first let's talk a little bit about the definition of that, because I feel like the word mastermind is probably one of the most overused marketing and business words around today. Everyone wants to put mastermind into something. Hey, we're having a mastermind group here. We're having a mastermind session over here. And then you attend it and it's like, this isn't a mastermind. This is just a workshop.
Yes.
Right. And so for you guys, how do you guys define a mastermind group?
Sandy, go for it. Oh, okay. I'll say, so I think the key, and we're right online in this topic, Scott. I think the key is a challenge or an opportunity that the team is brainstorming. So there needs to be something at the center of these groups that is bringing greater knowledge to everyone within the group. And there's a lot about the mastermind, the connection, the relationships, that working through a problem. But exactly to your point, what sets a mastermind apart from a workshop is really presenting a specific challenge or opportunity that the team can then talk about. I think that is maybe one of the biggest differences between a mastermind and just a workshop or a conference.
Yeah, I would agree.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can dovetail right off that. I think Laurie is spot on with that point. Taking a challenge that is common amongst a group of peers and presenting an opportunity for them to collectively mastermind through solutions. And I think the nice thing about, our experience and where a mastermind group really works most effectively is that peer-to-peer connection, that peer-to-peer counseling. And when you say peer-to-peer, a lot of times people think it's a table of equals. And that's not necessarily accurate. It's more a table of peers that have different talents, different experiences, different levels of expertise, and often different perspectives. And so a lot of times they bring out things that you would not ordinarily have thought maybe in your business was possible. And all of a sudden it opens up your line of thinking. It's a great opportunity to open the mind effectively.
Yeah, that's good points. I to me, and I'm glad you added that at the end, because the last thing you want to do, and this has been brought up in our own mastermind groups, the last thing we want to do is sit there and model best practices, right? I think Ed
Right.
Roberts, one of our dealer members who attends our Business Bourbon and Cigars
A
event.
beast.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And he's outstanding. He's outstanding at what he does. He's an outstanding dealer member in the group because he shares well and he listens well. He's open to ideas and then he implements, integrates them in. But he goes, why do I want to copy best practices when a lot of what we're trying to become or get out of, and the reason we're here, a lot of it's crap.
Yeah. Well, no,
as an industry, we're not good at certain things, right? So why do we want to copy best practices when you're only copying common best practices? And that's key, common best practices. All you're doing is getting yourself to that same level that kind of a lot of other people are at. We really want to be industry leading, and I'll use his term, Ed's term, industry leaders, right? Industry leading, and break through the common things that everyone already experiences. I mean, that's the real point of it all, isn't it? And so, Sandy, when you bring up not just all peers, right? I thought that was a very important thing to say because, we could have someone from the hospitality industry at a table. We could have someone from wealth management at a table. And go ahead, Laurie, you had something?
No, I was just going to say, from an audience perspective, Ed Roberts is the one who a lot of people are basing their best practices on. So going back to audience, it's like, how do you represent a good experience for people who are already operating at a top level and above, like where the people at your show are being used as the best practice examples. So how do we ensure that we further that for the attendees?
Yeah. Well, I will say this. The thing that I love about Ed Roberts is that he is an innovator. And I believe that innovation and effective execution in terms of integration creates a lot of imitation, right? And so that's where you see the best practices piece, so prevalent out there in the marketplace. But it's really the innovators, the ones that are looking for that new path forward, that are the ones that are really groundbreaking experiences, for Mastermind. So at the end of the day, it can't be the same old. Let's just do that a little bit better. It's like, how can we do it differently and get a better result?
Well, one of our dealer members to our own events is chimed in, Chuck Morelli from Honda World.
My man, Chuck.
Yeah. And so they've been there from day one and have never missed an event. But what a really great comment as we lead into the next question I have. I was going to sit there and say, what should a business leader do
there you go.
when deciding what type of event to do and which is the right group for them, right? So if you're a business leader and you're sitting there trying to, because there's all kinds of different groups and syndicates and different things you can join and participate in. So I think step number one, though, is no matter which route you go, you have to be very open-minded. You have to receive feedback. You have to be willing to be put into a hot seat every now and then, critique. You got to have honest dialogue, and you better leave your ego at the door, because there's really no place for it. You're not going to get anything out of it if you come in with that, right?
Yeah, and I think that's it. It's just a trusted space, so people need to understand that when you're coming in, there can't be any more of this. Like, we get this a lot in PR. Well, don't want to share our secret sauce, right? Because then other people will want to do it. We don't want to share that amazing technology we're using that's making our lives easier, because then the people down the street will want to do it. I think really it's very important as you come into these masterminds to be open to sharing, listening, and you're saying like feedback and ideas, because that's really where the value is from these masterminds, is the ability to kind of, well, I'll use the terrible term, the ability to be vulnerable, right, in what we don't know, and then share the things that really are working within our businesses.
Great point. Yeah. The other thing I would say, Scott, is when you've got too much ego at a table or in the room, much less gets accomplished.
Yeah.
I had an experience a few years back where I was invited to a group. It was a business group. It was not automotive specific. And after the first like hour and a half, I realized I was in the wrong room simply because there were too many bulldozers in the room, too many people that were elbowing their way into the discussion, into the conversation so that they could get themselves heard. And I would say this to you, most of the times in my experience, those with the largest egos and the loudest voice are usually trying to hide something that they are insecure or lack confidence about. And so that's really not what we're looking for. In the masterminds, we want people that are ego-less, or at least can check it at the door. And I think about the discussion you and I had or when we were in the room down in Bonita Springs, and I said to you, man, look at that table over there. It's loaded with A players. And then you said, yeah, but look at that table over there. And then we realized like every table that we had was loaded with A players without ego. And that's why so much was getting done and so many breakthroughs were occurring.
What do you guys, if you were to decide, you know what, I personally, for my business, my career, I need to join a group that can level me up, whether it's your business, you personally, whatever it might be, self-development or some type of business type thing, syndicate, mastermind, whatever it is. What would you guys look for? What would be your goal? What would be your reason for joining? And you can have more than one, but don't go past two. And then what would be your top 1 or 2 reasons for joining? And what would be the number one goal that you want to get out of it?
Sandy, you want to take that? You want to start?
I'll give you 2 things right off the bat. First thing is I want to be the least successful and least intelligent person in the room, and I want to go in there.
Sandy, Sandy,
that's easy for me. I understand, Scott. As I'm saying it, I'm saying I just teed up a softball for him to knock right over the fence.
I know. Why did you do it? Why did you do it? You knew
exactly. All he was looking at was dead.
Resorts don't have enough convention space to do.
So basically, I just described my life story. Dumbest guy to walk into every room he's ever entered, which is okay. I'm okay with that. Actually, it serves me well, and it would serve anybody well. And truthfully, the point is ultimately that I want to be inspired by the people that I am there with, and I want to go in there in a role of not only taking something away, but also serving in some way, shape, or form with my level of genius, which I think is the connection piece. Like creating relationships is really my superpower, and I want to be able to go in there and serve with that because I feel like I'm going to be taking away so much more.
Yeah. I think. Go ahead, Laurie.
No, I would say the same. Like I love the thing that I came to your mastermind, this last year, and I said, oh my gosh, how can I get more involved? Because it's really that relational piece. I still, John Traver is someone who came out of your mastermind group who we talk probably weekly. And so there's still folks that I met in the sessions that made such a huge impact on me over those 3 days that they've become a major part of my life and my business. And so,
and I want to get into that a little bit later in the second half of this discussion, because the relationship side and what it takes in a group, because I think choosing your group, choosing the format is important because a lot of times the relationships that you form are far more powerful than any one idea that you get, because just the business opportunities that come from it. And, but we'll get into that in a second here. And we got a great comment. So just so people know, we are streaming live. This show it's being recorded, but it's streaming live currently on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And so we've got a good comment coming in from Pat Soller on LinkedIn. And by the way, we don't always do StreamYard get all the Facebook questions. Type them in, and we'll have to go back to those. But we do seem to get them from LinkedIn and from YouTube a lot. So he asked, is there an ideal group size, and how do you find a group that is not an echo chamber? To me, I love those 2 questions. You guys want to chime in on that?
Laura, kick it.
I'll say for the echo chamber, because that's a big one, and that's something that I think is a growing concern and something that you absolutely should be looking at as you're looking at these groups. So good job. I know this team makes a lot of effort to ensure that there is not just one person represented. So it's not only going to be GMs, you're going to have some fixed ops guys. These guys behind the scenes are doing a great job right now. I'm trying to ensure female leaders are a part of every group. So I would say for the echo chamber, when you're looking for these groups and you're looking for a mastermind, ensure there's a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different roles, and that it's not just the same person sitting at every table with the same position from the same size dealership or size company. I think just really look for that sort of like diversity at the tables, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you get too many people in, and I think this goes right back to what Ed Roberts was saying in our last one, like, I'm not here to copy best practices.
Right.
Because a lot of the best practices suck. And so
we do a lot of wrong things very well.
Yeah, that's what Pat is basically saying. He goes, he doesn't need to be in a room where everybody's talking about the same stuff and just regurgitating the same things over and over and over again to where we're not learning anything new and there's no true breakthroughs. And so some of that comes from how it's moderated, the format that's set up. It's not always the people that are in the room that plays a part. I think you have to have a diverse, we've talked about it. And one of the reasons, Laurie, that we want you really helping us get more women into it. We have a lot of highly ultra successful women in automotive. And we're sitting here in the name Business Bourbon and Cigars does it right off the tongue. I got to tell you something, Scott.
It's funny you say that because more and more I'm finding that there are plenty of women out there, business, like very intelligent, business-minded women that get it. They're like, oh shit, I drink bourbon. I'm not a big cigar person, but I love business and I get bourbon. I think of Dave Boyle's wife, Kathy, wildly successful. She should be sitting in the mastermind roundtables, to be honest with you. She successfully built and sold a number of companies, and she drinks bourbon. I don't know about the cigars, but she definitely knows business.
That's actually a good idea.
I have one every once in a while.
Yeah.
Well, I had someone reach out to me and say, well, for one, Laurie consistently, jokingly says we should add "and white wine" to the end of the name. But
maybe cheese plate. I don't know.
As long as she'll clench her teeth when she says Chardonnay, I'm in.
Say, hey, Laurie, if we ever wanted to do a female only, we could always do business women and whiskey. So,
ooh, I like it. No, business women and white wine. I mean, it just rolls off the tongue. Like it's, I mean, guys.
Let me just think about explaining that one to Mary. Scott and I, Laurie, Scott and I, and 48 women. No problem. It's all good.
I had someone reach out to me privately, and I appreciated that, talking about the name and saying, hey, it doesn't appeal this and that, and
that's okay.
And I let her know what we were trying to do to make sure that everyone's included in that. But I did tell her at the end, I said, hey, in Louisville, all the women drink bourbon.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the other thing is, I think it's more the feel, right? This gets back to like the branding and the feel. You're among friends. We're sharing ideas. At the end of every day, we have all of these amazing group outings and fun dinners that we all have together. So it's more the feel of having a bourbon and cigar at the end of a long day with your friends.
And so to get back to Pat's,
reduces inhibition to talk about topics, right? And truthfully, like what you see is conversations get extended, beyond the mastermind session, and I love that because all of a sudden it's like we take the guard down, we have real conversations, and those conversations continue. I do want to address Pat's other question in terms of an ideal group size, because Scott, I think it speaks to what you and I have shared with Laurie about our intention with Business Bourbon and Cigars, the one mastermind that we're currently hosting and produce, and we purposely kept it intimate. And so, Pat, to answer your question, we keep it to about 40 to 45 participants, and we break it into between 4 and 5, sometimes 6 tables, so that we can get I'm going to go back to the D word, diverse, a diverse reflection in terms of the topics and the solutions.
And I'm going to address the elephant in the room for a minute, and I hope this is okay. But also, you guys are very selective and careful about the vendors at the end.
Oh, yeah. So I think we don't even call them vendors. We've got such incredible partnership relationships, our sponsor partners, and we've got, over 90% of them return to come back for ensuing events because of the way that this is structured. So Scott, you should talk more about that.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, Laurie, Steve from Drive Centric will be there in September.
That's right.
So,
oh, nice. Okay, tell me to put a TikTok together.
I'm flying my barber out with me. I'm going to get a haircut every day. I'm going to have a little trim work done every day just so I can keep up with him, for God's sakes.
He better be doing his young teen girl TikTok for me. That's all I can say.
I don't know about that.
So Pat, if you could hang on throughout this show, because the second half of this, we're going to get into some specific models that I think address both your questions. Your first question about ideal group size. The perfect ideal group size for a mastermind group is 8 to 10 people.
Right.
So when Sandy brings up 40, 50, 60 people, how do you do that? The way you do it is in the model and in the format that we do it, to where everyone's working within a group of 8 to 10.
Correct.
And we make sure that everyone at some point is working with out of all the 40, 50, 60, whatever ends up being there, at some point you work with every single one of those people in a different group. So we'll explain that in a little bit. And but I think so that's a way of getting a bigger overall event size, but still keeping it within the ideal mastermind group, so true action plans can come out of it. Then, and how do you get out of the echo chamber? Once again, that gets into the format and the case study and setting the expectations up front. I think this, in today's world, all right. So I asked you guys, what would you guys want to get out of it? For me personally, when I'm in a mastermind group or I join a syndicate or any type of thing that I want to try and help, the intent is to help me level up. I feel like social media has done just almost a disservice in the sense. It's great for grabbing attention, bringing attention to yourself and your business and different things like that. But what it's also done is, I feel like society's almost become obsessed with trying to show everybody how productive we are. Look how busy I am. I'm busier than you. I get up at 4 a.m. I get up at 3:30. I give it up at 5.
Right.
I work more hours than you. I do all these things. And I think,
I know where this is going.
Well, I think most people misunderstand what productivity is.
Yeah.
Right? So, a lot of people are very busy on the surface, like a duck swimming on the lake, or on the surface, they seem calm. Well, it's reverse. A horrible analogy. Yeah. So let me reverse that.
I'm waiting for the Tom Joseph comment to come in right about now.
Where most people on the surface, on social media being the surface, they look so busy and like they're getting all this stuff done. But in the end, they're not really accomplishing all that much. And so when I go to a mastermind, what I don't want is, I don't need to listen to Pat's comment, an echo chamber of seeing a bunch of canned pitches, disguised as a workshop or a best practice speech. I want to sit down with people. I want to say, here's some issues. And then I want to work on actual action steps. And I'm not I'm not there to try and improve my efficiency. I'm at a mastermind to improve my effectiveness. I don't need to work on, I guess, the right things. I need to work on the things that will accomplish what I need to accomplish. Does that make sense? Or I don't need to.
Scott, we're always looking for levers. How do we lever some of the intel that we gather, some of the tools and resources we already have in our businesses, so that, as you said, we can level up? That's the whole idea.
And I think things that are coming too, like, don't forget that. So it's like, let's not do best practices on what's happening right now, but let's look, at your mastermind session in the spring, or in the spring. It was like, let's look at some of the trends that will be affecting.
Correct.
And how do we get ahead of those?
Laurie,
let me ask you a question. I got to ask this question. Benjamin Franklin, would we all say that he was probably more productive than 95% of the people that we know today?
First millionaire in the history of the United States, buddy.
Really?
All right. I actually did not know that, but
Yeah.
That's really
see,
cool.
the Solutionist is a vault, a deep vault of knowledge. All right. Just
Can I give you one of his
unbelievable.
quotes that speaks to exactly what you're talking about? You bring up Ben Franklin. He said, and I forgive the reference, but this is how they spoke back then. A man who is good for excuses is seldom good for much else. And his point was that he got shit done.
Yeah.
That was it. You know,
I'm confused at how he could be more productive back then than without the internet, without social media, without a CRM, without any tools to make us more efficient, without a cell phone. How did he get more done?
Less
Yeah.
distractions.
Exactly right. Focus.
Correct. He was effective. He wasn't he was nowhere. There's no way you could make the argument that a Benjamin Franklin was more efficient than anybody today. It's impossible because he couldn't just pick up his cell phone and call someone. There's nothing more efficient than that, right? I couldn't just shoot somebody a text. I couldn't just email somebody. I couldn't do all these things that make things so efficient today, but he was much more effective. And I want to be effective. So when I look at a mastermind group, I want to make sure I'm working on the right things that are going to take me and help me accomplish my goal. I don't want to work on anything that distracts me from that.
Right.
And most people are very efficient at working on things that don't move the needle. Does Benjamin Franklin, as you guys look at, and I know that he was early to bed, but he was also early to rise. So I know he was early to rise, but he went to bed.
Made him healthy,
Not
wealthy,
like he
and
was
wise.
working. Early to bed implies that, he did get his proper sleep so he could recover. Was Benjamin Franklin getting up at 4 a.m. exercising? Does he look, when I look at his pictures, I don't see him up at 4 a.m. doing.
There's no Lambo in the background with Benjamin Franklin?
I didn't see any of that with Benjamin. I don't know.
Okay.
But he could rock the belt buckle shoes and the high white socks like nobody's business, bro.
No, listen, I'm not making fun. Listen. I am jealous. I am jealous of the people that have what it takes to get up at 4 a.m. and exercise, because I have tried that.
I can get up at 4 a.m. and exercise. I don't know if I could rock the belt buckle shoes with the white socks. That's a bigger challenge for me.
So I've had to change my exercise routine. I just do it at lunch because that's more sustainable for me. So,
you just stitch it all together. That's basically my workout routine. You just don't do it. You just don't do it every day.
The model of efficiency. He's eating a cheeseburger as he's doing 4-pound curls.
Yes.
So, listen, and I've been saying this a lot lately, and it kind of goes to some of this. We can all agree that time is more valuable than money, correct?
Yes.
But what's more valuable than time? You can't just say add more hours to your day in your that's a very
force.
If you don't want to improve your skill set, if you don't want to be more effective, just add more hours. I can make more calls if I add more hours to my day. I can do that. But focus. Focus is greater than time. If I have great laser-like focus, right, it saves me time. I accomplish a lot more in a shorter period of time. I value someone that can do that much more than someone that works 20 hours a day and accomplishes the same result. I want someone that can get the same result or more in half the time or less.
Sure.
That's what I value. That's who I want to learn from. And so that's ultra success. The ultra successful, they put in the hours. All these people preaching, get up early, work all the ultra successful do that. But what they do in addition to that is they are more effective. They're laser sharp with their focus. They don't major in minor things because focus is greater than time and time is greater than money. The more focused you are, the more time you will create for yourself. The more time you create for yourself, the more money you will create for yourself. And it just goes like that.
Yeah, what I would add, Scott, is that the great force multiplier, go back to Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein said that the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest, right? And so you can apply the same, geometric progression of compounding effort when you have these incredible breakthrough ideas where you use technology properly. Hold your comment, because I know I know where you're going. You're going to ask me, did Albert tell me that when we were in grammar school together? And the answer is yes. Okay, so I'm taking the line right away from you. But the fact is, your point is so on the mark. When you can focus on the things that become force multipliers and compound the results that you're getting, that's where they call it geometric progression. That's where the magic is, because you get exponentially better results for the same level of input.
Correct. Good point.
Yeah.
Pat has a great follow-up comment. He says, your knowledge and the history of Ben Franklin has made this event priceless. And so
wait, this actually, Scott, I'm sorry. Solar. Anyone? Solar. Sorry, Pat. Touche.
Pat, do me a favor. And this goes, I'll do this for the first 10 people. I want you, if you're watching this or listening to it, I want you to message me on either LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. So private message me, send me your t-shirt size, send me your, hold on here.
Your birth date, social security number.
Yeah.
And your password to your bank account.
Yes.
And you get a t-shirt in return.
And a t-shirt in exchange. Wonderful.
There's the compound effect, Laurie, right there.
Hold on. All right, there we go. Send me your t-shirt size, where you need it shipped, and I need to know. I've got a few different colors. I've got black, blue, and purple, depending on the size. I said if the first 10 people send me that, I'm gonna send them a free Move Crush Count t-shirt
for the small shipping and handling fee.
I'll tell you,
$39.95.
If we, I'll give you a choice. You got to just tell me which one you want, though. All right. If you send me this, or you can get one of these business bourbon and cigars t-shirts, either one. But
I'm nervous with what's coming next. Okay.
We're gonna stop it there, Laurie. That's where the free clothing. And I'm not going to give you this one. I will give you one that I haven't.
Give you a game worn. His game worn business bourbon cigars. You can still smell. You can still smell the cigar in the shirt when you get it.
Perfect.
Oh,
little bourbon stain over
That's
here.
What we all want.
All right. So, where do you feel like there's a lot of wasted time, whether it's an event, a conference, or a mastermind?
I think, well, because we're all three such connectors, I think we can agree that when I go, I want more, and I know I sound like a broken record, but more opportunities to connect with folks and create relationships with folks. So again, getting back to the standard conference model of just sitting in a room listening to a speaker, that's like death to me. So I want opportunities, multiple opportunities in the mastermind and outside of the mastermind to connect and relate to people and have that kind of free time. I almost think that also there's not enough free time at some of these places, like you were saying, Sandy, for like after a session to come and connect with people on your own and discuss kind of what happened during the session. So I would just say that ability to have free time to connect with the other participants is missing from a lot.
Yeah, I would echo the sentiment. I think Laurie's right on the mark. Having more time for peers and potential client and provider relationships to take root, because very often at these events, at a typical conference or a workshop that's sponsored by a number of different companies, they usually want to get their money's worth. And what they miss very often is that the people there are not there to get pitched. And it's been a very clear focus of ours, Scott, in our current mastermind format, that we don't do pitch presentations. What we really want is for our sponsor partners and our dealer members to be part of the exact same community. So it's not like an us and them, it's more an us, period. And they're working through solving the challenges together. Again, it goes back to having different perspectives, seeing the same problem from a completely different angle, and providing more objective input and feedback.
Yeah. I sit here and going back to what you say about the pitches, I don't get a ton out of that stuff, at least for me personally. And unless it's someone that goes up there and truly does it in the spirit it's intended.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I mean by that is this. If I'm speaking in front of a room, there is zero pitch in anything I do. In fact, I rarely even bring up my question. I ask myself before I'm outlining what I need to talk about or presenting to everybody would be, you know, what information, how can I serve this audience best?
Yeah.
What can I give them of value that they can walk away from here and use? They don't need me for it. All right. That is, to me, that's what makes you, Laurie, you're a PR person. I mean, from a content management standpoint, I mean, doesn't that make the best content anyways?
That is exactly what I was going to say. I mean, I work with clients on this all the time, and I really work more, like I said, with the tech vendors. I work more with them than the dealers. And the number one rule before they go to any conference or before we put in any application is, guys, this really needs to be about what the audience, teaching the audience something. This is not a pitch for your technology. You know, people can see right through, even if you're trying to be like educational, but within a certain theme that then leads back to surprise, exactly what the solution does. Like, people see right through that. So genuineness, try to look at the needs of your audience and deliver that. These are key. And I'll tell you, I've seen all sides. The clients who follow that advice and do that get invited back. The ones who don't do not get the request next time they come. So.
And they tend to not have a great experience, to be honest with you. Sometimes they don't want to come back. I believe that the provocation aspect of it versus the pitch is really what drives the connection between the sponsor partners and dealer members in our mastermind, but in any mastermind environment. You want to provoke better thinking. You want to provoke a response that gets people thinking a bit differently, and then go in there. I believe if you're at the front of the room with the intention of walking away with more insights than you deliver.
You're exactly right. I was going to jump in just quickly and say that the client, so I actually had some clients as well that sponsored this last time. And the insight they walked away with into the inner issues that are happening with dealerships when people come together and aren't afraid of being, you know, honest about what they're dealing with was almost more valuable than them being there. Well, I will say it was more valuable than them being there and having their logo on the napkins. Like, they went away really understanding the true challenges that are happening in these dealer groups.
It's a perfect example of what we refer to as a force multiplier. You know, if you're going to make that investment of your time and your money, your capital to be part of the event and part of the community, the more you plug into the community, the more exponential return on your time and money invested you're going to see.
Right.
So I want to talk a little bit about business bourbon and cigars, not to pitch it as much as because there are people that are listening.
Don't talk about pitching.
Well, no, I'm not gonna. We're not gonna pitch that or anything like that. We've got a video at the end for that. No, I'm just no, but because there are people
give
listening
Stephen
right
Peake
now.
a shout out. Stephen Peake deserves a shout out because he did such a killer job on that.
Yeah. He's right here in front of me videoing and doing all kinds of fancy.
I'll give you a shout out, Stephen.
Right,
there we go.
So let's here's, I guess the reason I want to bring it up is this. We have a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience, a lot of business leaders in the audience, and they attend conferences, they attend events, they're part of mastermind groups, and a lot of them do their own type of things or similar. And so I kind of want to introduce so we've talked a lot about what not to do and how to do it and all this relationship stuff, but let's give some specifics in terms of the process. How do you get a group or an event the size of 40, 60, 70, 80 people to be intimate to where you're actually maximizing the right size of a mastermind group of 8 to 10? How do you make sure it's not an echo chamber? How do you make sure people walk away with relationships? You know, Squire Pettis, who's been there from day one, is a from the OEM side, from the manufacturer side, who comes to every event. You know, he says it best. He goes, when I walk away from this event, I literally walk away with a list of names and numbers that I can call for anything I need for life. And I don't know about everybody else. I can speak for me that a lot of the people that have attended this stuff, I mean, I consider them as good of friends as I've ever had.
Yep.
I would have never met them had it not been
Yeah.
for the group. And I want to talk about, because that's so important, because it leads to other business opportunities
Yeah.
and that's where real breakthroughs come through, because sometimes those connections lead to ideas that no one would have ever thought of. But that can't happen without setting up a format and an environment that invites that. Right. So there's got to be, it can't be just all sit in there. Let me take notes. There's got to be a lot of fun involved to create that camaraderie and those friendships. So let's talk a little bit. How do we make sure that, you know, I'll give the lay of the land of what we do at least, and then we can kind of take it from there.
Okay.
So we spread ours out, as you guys know, over 2.5 days, right? We do that welcome reception in the beginning because we want everybody feeling comfortable and knowing everybody before they get into the mastermind sessions, because we said, you know, Chuck said it best, right? You got to leave your ego. You got to have an open mind. You got to leave your ego at the door. That's hard to do if you don't know anybody.
Right.
And if you've not already established some sort of relationship, right? So we've got a great welcome reception where everybody's gathered around and meeting everybody and everybody's comfortable. So when we start and do our breakfast networking, which is another example of that, and we start into the mastermind sessions, there's already a comfort zone there.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, from a process standpoint, we take a room of 40, 50, 60 people and we put them into tables of 8 to 10. And every table has to act as if they're one business, right? They're one business. And then we might say, here's our case study. We need to improve client retention, or we need to recruit, hire, and retain better employees, or we need to, you know, for auto, right? Right now we've got one of our topics obviously coming up is going to be, how do I acquire more used vehicles so I can have more inventory, right? But you got to get very specific on what the goal is at your table. You've got to set, if there's no number that's set, right, you can't reach the end goal and everybody just starts talking. So what are the things you want to avoid? And we mix those tables and we assign the tables. So you've got hopefully 2/3 dealers, and then you've got your sponsor partners at the table as well. So you get a big variety of opinions, ideas, things such as that. And then we have people come up at the end and produce their action plan from every table, right? Without repeating themselves in case there's some repetitive stuff. And then on the next session, everyone's got a different table they're going to. So you're always working with different. So that's the lay of the land in terms of the process.
Yeah.
But now let's talk more specifics. Why does that work well in terms of the mastermind sessions, Laurie? You came in on this last event. You got to witness it firsthand. In your opinion, why is that a good process?
Well, I think there's a couple of things you guys did during that mastermind that made a lot of sense. It intrinsically gets everyone involved. So one thing you didn't mention that I thought was brilliant is there's a table leader, and that's assigned by the group. And that table leader is the one that takes all of the ideas, kind of writes them down, and then presents it to the room after the session. But I think what it does is it really creates these smaller groups, having the table leaders, knowing they're going to have to go up and present to the group after the session. That is really what gets that participation going. And if you guys remember, there was one person, I cannot for the life of me remember who it was, and we probably shouldn't have him anyway. But he was like, I do not want to go up front and speak. I do not. I was in 2 or 3 different tables with him. And he was like, I do not. By the end of the day, guess what? We'd gone through all the table leaders. So guess who had to get up and speak? And he crushed it. And so I think it's just this idea of like, how can you draw these participants out to ensure that every voice is being heard?
Well, you want to create strategic thinking.
Yeah.
There's nothing strategic about going to an event. The people that are ultra successful, because this shows about how do we model what masterminds that the ultra successful people do. And when you think about the original masterminds, the Rockefellers, you know, the Vanderbilts, the Carnegies, all these, these are that is ultra success, right?
Yeah.
They didn't sit there and go, hey, I need to go to a workshop. You know what? I got this idea. I'm going to integrate it today. Good to go. That's not strategic minded people. They use the power of long-term thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So what we want is not necessarily, we want short-term results. Don't get me wrong. But long-term thinking is what allows you to achieve. That's where the real breakthroughs come through. That's where the long-term thinking is what allows you to achieve the ultra success, achieve much more than you ever thought was possible. Right. And so that's what we're trying to attract. And that's what we're trying to kind of, I guess, encourage with the process.
Yeah.
Well, we want to encourage people to have the confidence to share ideas and to share things that are being done outside of a particular industry as a potential solution for another industry, right? Which I know you love, Scott. And you're one of the guys that really got me focused on looking outside of my vertical to find solutions that will work inside the vertical.
Mm-hmm.
And I think putting a group of people together and removing the inhibition of what if my idea, lands like, I don't know, Joe Biden on a overseas trip or something. I don't know.
Sandy always, I know from a PR standpoint, Laurie would recommend that you don't do that.
I think right now they're all universally
going political.
They're all universally looking and saying, whoa. Even people in his own party. Anyhow, my point is, you want people to ultimately have the confidence to say what's on their mind in terms of an idea and not have to worry about being quote unquote judged, if you will. And Scott, you talked about a great idea that we implemented last go around that you had picked up with respect to kind of taking on an avatar, pretending that you were someone else. If you were such and such, if you were Elon Musk, would you worry about your idea? It doesn't make a difference. Elon Musk puts an idea out there, nobody's gonna laugh at him. Well, maybe they did early on, but he's on his way to founding $2 trillion companies, not laughing anymore.
Well, that's something we introduced on. That's something we introduced on the last Mastermind. I got that from Josh Linkner, who is an innovation. He's an innovation expert.
Yep.
He's been the CEO and founder of companies that have eventually sold for billions. And so he's good at what he does. And he brought up a good point. And we introduced that on the last group. And that was this. When you're in a mastermind group and you're really being asked to think of long-term thinking and big breakthroughs that can eventually change the game, right? True disruption.
Yeah.
You can't, the average person doesn't always want to speak up. They might think their idea is too outlandish, too outrageous.
Right.
It's too creative. Everyone's creative. Not everyone speaks up about it. And so what he said was, he goes, imagine Elon Musk or Bill Gates at your table. All right. Think of the pressure they have. The pressure they have is not the outrageous idea and looking like a fool. Because if they came up with an outrageous idea that was way out there, we'd all be like, wow.
Yeah. Right.
And they're worried about coming up with the common comment, the common idea, because everyone expects Bill Gates or Elon Musk to have the out of the box, wow, you're the only type of person that could think like that. So we want people almost when they're at their tables role playing. I'm going to play the part of Elon Musk. I'm going to play the part of Bill Gates. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a good guy. It can be a bad guy. It could be, it
doesn't even have to be a
Dr. Evil. It could be Dr. Evil. He was innovative.
Doesn't have to be a guy, Sandy. Correct.
It doesn't have to be a guy. I say guy as in universal, as in all people.
Well, no, but when you said it, I was thinking like Oprah Winfrey, what she did in terms of using multi-channel when nobody was using multi-channel to build a brand. She was building brand when nobody even knew what the hell a personal brand was, right? And she was employing. I think she was employing a multi-channel strategy when nobody thought about things like that.
Oprah's not going to sit at that table and come up with some common idea. She
Right.
knows the expectations are much higher for her. And so you have to role play that. Pat comes back with a good question. And I'm glad he brought this up because,
I agree.
all right, so how do you, if you're wanting to do a mastermind group, how can you do a mastermind group, keep your cost of entry low to your, in our case, the dealer members, right?
Mhm.
And put on a great event? Well, obviously you have to have sponsors.
Yeah.
But how do you get sponsors if you're not going to get them up there speaking and doing all the traditional common things that every event does?
Yeah.
Two things. We'll talk about the activities and excursions in a second with the networking. But let's talk specific to the content about the masterminds in right during the sessions. They're sitting at the table. And a lot of times, and you said we're picky about who we bring in. We are picky about who we bring in. We want to bring in sponsor partners that can add a lot to the discussion. And one thing that we've noticed is, first off, any one particular sponsor, John Traver, you brought him up with Traver Connect. John
Love
is
him.
a
JT.
specialist.
Such a great guy.
Yeah, he's a specialist at the BDC, correct? Business Development Centers.
Yep.
Virtual Business Development Centers.
It's even bigger than that. A guy like that is actually, he's got genius level intelligence in terms of building a business and also getting the most out of the people that he works with.
Correct.
And he has this thing that he follows everything through to the very end, and he's willing to continue to ask all the questions that need to be asked until he gets to the solution that solves the problem, which is
Well,
it's one
you
of the
just
things I
nailed
like most about
you
him.
just nailed his superpower.
That's it.
Absolutely.
No
His
one asks better questions
100%.
than John Traver.
Yes.
Yep.
So when
He
there's
always
a
says, "I'm
problem,
willing to stay with the problem longer than the average person."
Yeah.
when there is a problem, John asks all the right questions until he finds the right solution
Mhm.
for that problem. And so when you're sitting at a table, Pat, and let's say you're a sponsor partner and there's two of you or three of you, and then the rest is the dealer member audience or whatever audience you're trying to attract for your group, your sponsors are able to not pitch, but they're working hand in hand
They're
with the
participating.
dealer
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
participating on coming up with solutions. And it adds so much authority and it elevates their expertise,
Yeah.
their how they're perceived and the authority and their credibility.
Yeah.
And the
And
trust.
when then
It
yeah,
heightens
it-
the trust, Scott, because at that point in time, the level of trust and confidence in that person's input is incredibly powerful in terms of creating relationships, because it transcends business. It really
Right.
goes beyond the business piece of it.
and think of how that works even for the dealers, and this works for everyone at the table, dealer to dealer, dealer to sponsor, vice versa. It doesn't matter. Sponsor to sponsor.
Yeah.
You brought up John, where you both you're
Yeah.
both on the sponsor side pretty much. I mean, so
I was
you're
going to
not a
say, I
dealer.
actually have a real life example of how this plays out. Exactly everything you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
So I'm not a dealer. I came to the last mastermind session. I have a PR firm. John was a sponsor as well. We'll use sponsor, but we all know it's a participant. We got to talking during the mastermind sessions. I really liked what he had to say. I didn't know him before the show. That night at the excursion, which we're talking about next, and at the dinner, we got to know each other more. And this was not business talk. This was just fun, relational talk.
Yep.
After the show, he reached out to me and was like, I really think we can use you for some PR. So he's not only a client, but, and here's the coolest thing, I don't think you guys even know this. He said, I really love what you've been doing. I've been watching what you're doing. If you're interested, I would love to mentor you on how to build up your business and your team.
Wow.
And so, like, not only did I get
He's
a client
awesome.
out of it, but more importantly, I got someone who's mentoring me through growing my business. So that's just a real life example of a way that I never, beyond saying I own a PR firm, we didn't almost ever talk about PR. We did not talk about PR, but it was that one-on-one connection and trust that was created during the conference that allowed us to have that relationship that then carried on outside of the conference and led to all of these other things.
I
John-
so love that happened, because it's one of the things that Scott and I, that was very intentional for us when we talked about bringing people together, I'm gonna talk for just a second about Dave Boyle and Arnold Gasita getting together and strategically partnering. You know, two guys that I have tremendous respect and admiration for, and they had an overlap in their businesses. There was no competitive overlap; it was just overlap, and we've been able to work together with those guys in order to put that on the right track. And, you know, as we continue to flesh through that, but that's the other benefit, Scott. Right? Is it's not just going in and solving some of these specific challenges, but it's also, to Laurie's point, those exponential opportunities outside of the event itself that have much more legs to them in terms of long-term relationships and long-term business opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
And because you're filling it with business leaders, like you're saying, Scott, because it's filled with the best of the best in these masterminds, you're really building relationships and bridges with some of the titans of our industry.
Yeah.
I love the quote from David Spizak. And David's been doing this for 40 years in automotive. And, you know, when he was running his store, no one had ever achieved that level of success. There are some people that have done it now, but heck, this is years later when the money's changed. And right now, right now,
22 months.
If you're not making good money as an auto dealer right now, you need to be in some mastermind groups. You need to be in some groups. But he says it better. He goes, this is the most, I guess, valuable, and I'm going to mess his words up. I've got it written down. You know, most valuable, but he said the most engaging and fun. He goes, I've never seen something so engaging where people are so willing to help each other. And he goes, in all my 40 years.
Yeah.
I think that's saying a lot. Imagine all the NAD, all the conferences, all the events, all the small events, big events this man has went to. And for him to say that, I think speaks volumes.
Yeah.
And so Pat, I hope we answered your question in terms of the sponsor partners, but we can add to that. And the reason I love Chuck's comment, because I feel like they go hand in hand. Chuck goes, you know, what I love, Chuck Morelli from LinkedIn, what I love about the Business Bourbon and Cigar event is how you schedule both work and pleasure on a daily basis. It allows the attendees to put their focus for a short period of time, knowing that the relaxing event is coming later. I believe it adds to increased productivity during that time period, not 8+ hours of thinking, dialogue, then you go to your room unproductive. And so when you're working hand in hand with these sponsors and with these dealers and all these other people that can help you, there's a camaraderie that's built from that. So then when you actually go to the excursions and activities, whether it's the bus rides going to Laurie, you haven't done the Louisville one yet.
Laurie,
you're going to love this
now,
in
bus
September.
2.
But
you want to enjoy yourself, you get on bus 2.
The funny thing about this, and it's going to be confusing to anyone who didn't come to the show, but I was a part of the boat, and there were the 2 boats, the Love Boat, and then what was yours, Scott?
Ours had a great name. Ours had a great name. It was like Champion Warrior or something like that.
But I still to this day have people texting me, you guys, I'm not kidding, and on LinkedIn, like Love Boat or the Warrior Boat. Like, it's, you know, so you're creating these experiences that go well beyond the show.
And that doesn't happen. Like, so think about normal conferences or something like, okay, they do a dinner or they do a party after. Well, what happens is everybody gets into their own little clique, hangs out, and you don't really, there are people that know how to network those type of events and do a good job, but 80%.
Gave me a great idea, Scott, actually. Keep going. I'm sorry, but.
Well, what I was going to say is what happens is, though, when you're working hand in hand through work, like Chuck's saying here, and it's very focused, there's a camaraderie and a relationship and a respect that is formed very fast. So when you get into these other, I tell people, I said, I've never done anything. And the reason I love doing them, and I'm going to listen, I get messaged left and right. Sandy does as well, from people outside of auto saying, do you do this outside of auto? So that's coming, because
we've got a former ESPN executive who just retired, who wants us to do something with retired athletes.
Awesome.
It's coming. And because I'll tell you why. my life mission is that I ask, how can I help people that might either follow me or I'm connected with on. So I like help. I get a charge helping people win.
Yeah.
That's what, back when J&O Marketing only did direct mail sale events back in the 90s, that was all we did.
Mhm.
What was so exciting about it is when they worked really well, there was nothing better than calling a dealer the day after.
Yep.
Because it was hard to get it's a challenge for any retailer to get foot traffic,
Yeah.
you know, and then to have a huge day like that, some type of record-breaking day, that got to me. And so for me, one of the reasons I get on here with Move, Crush, Count, one of the reasons I do these is just because I like the camaraderie. I like bringing that together, and I like discussing things that could have potential huge impacts on everything, right? And then making sure, and I like to hopefully persuade and motivate people to actually take action and do it. But to Chuck's point, none of the events and the excursions, whether we get on the bus and we go to do these distillery tours, and when we do the one in September with the Old Taylor archaeological dig, it is badass.
It's the best excursion that we've done out of
I'm
every
so
event.
excited.
Well, we're gonna bring back Heritage Farm too. That would be Sarah Van Tine would love that one, by the way.
You certainly would.
With Quantum 5, but you know, because that goes through the horse farm and stuff like that. But a lot of what we're doing, the excursions, everyone thinks it all resolves around bourbon and cigars. There's a bourbon and cigar theme to everything.
Didn't we see one of my old demos at that Heritage Farm? One of the horseless carriage.
They brought it right off. They brought it right off the Cerami Pontiac lot.
With your bubble shoes.
Laurie, we walk into one of the beautiful barns on the property, and there are horse carriages, right? And Scott turns around and says, "Guys, come on over. I found Sandy's first demo."
Perfect.
Good time.
And the funny part is, people, every time Scott jokes around about my age, they always say to me, "I can't believe he's younger than you."
Well, we've got this like purple bluish light that echoes off, and what I like about it is a lot of times Steven's got it closer, and so it like lights up the side of my head because I'm looking like Paulie. I'm looking like Paulie on the Sopranos.
God rest him. God rest him.
I'm like only getting gray right here. It's awful.
God rest him. Laurie, I'm looking down the road with me because, man, your sense of humor is right up my alley, man.
Yeah. Oh.
I knew I loved Laurie on the welcome reception from the last event because you know the welcome reception, you want people to be outgoing, and you want if you have a wedding reception or a party that involves a band and dance floor.
Yes.
Somebody's got to jump on that grenade and get on that dance floor first. Laurie is that person.
But let's be honest, the Hermit Crab Racing win was one of the highlights of my entire life.
Tremendous.
This was like, could not be more excited that my Hermit Crab won.
And I'll tell you, I've never wrestled an alligator before, but I was undefeated.
Right.
I took that little 7-inch alligator down countless times. That dude didn't even know what hit him.
And so the excursions and activities, by the way, are important to all this, not because, for one, the relationships and the networking, but you want to create an experience that people go back and are like, wow, that was a business event?
Yeah. Yes.
I want people to have so much fun that they come for both reasons.
Yeah.
And I
think they get nothing out of it.
I told you after my first time, I said that was literally the most productive, fun industry event I think I've ever been to, because you do such a nice job of including both in the agenda every day.
There was no, I have to, Sandy, you hate when I say we lucked into things. Clearly we had meetings and we talked about things, but we didn't strategize. All right, if we do this, then this will happen. And then we didn't do any of that.
Scott, we did luck into it. And here's how we did luck into it. This whole thing, and hopefully Pat is still listening. And Pat, the easiest way to get started is to just do it. Okay. And the emanation of Business Bourbon and Cigars was literally, me saying to Scott, like, hey, dude, the lockdowns are a little intimidating, and it's a problem for my clients, and it becomes a problem for us because we have no cash flow coming in. We need to figure this thing out. And it literally started with a bourbon, a cigar, and a Zoom call between the two of us. And it just graduated from there. So we are very lucky and fortunate. I know we lucked into a lot of this stuff, but I would say this to you. When we put it together and we were intentional and purposeful in terms of how we put it together, it attracted the right kind of people. And so the culture of business bourbon and cigars is specifically a direct byproduct of the people that have joined this community and have now basically made this community into what it is.
I love
Blessing.
how now the dealer members are very guarded
Yes.
with who comes in. They're
Absolutely.
like, hey, don't mess up this vibe we got. Don't mess up this vibe we've got, right?
Well, you
We've
guys
had a
turn people
few-
away routinely not because they're not right, but it's just full. It's full.
Yeah.
People are dying to come back.
Yes.
And so, you know, and I think that's that to it. They think like that was so fun. I felt such a sense of camaraderie. I'm going to sign up the moment sign-ups are available again. And as a result, it just fills up really quickly.
I'm going to poke a little fun at Scott Joseph because Dave Boyle, the CEO of Traction, who's got a tremendous platform, but I had never met Dave before the first Business Bourbon and Cigars event. And Dave and Kathy are coming into town tomorrow night. They're coming to the Dirty Jers, Scott.
Nice.
They come to the Jersey Shore and hang out at the beach with Mary and I all day Saturday and grab a bite to eat on Saturday night. It was last minute. He had 2 first-class tickets to burn, so he decided to hop to the Jersey Shore.
Cool.
But that never happens without Business Bourbon and Cigars. The relationship aspect of it never happens without Business Bourbon and Cigars.
Sandy, so first off, I know the beach you go to is beautiful because I've seen the pictures. So I want to throw that out there first.
Thank you.
Part of my mental problem, all right, when I hear of a New Jersey beach, okay? No, well, yes.
Me and a
is
bathing
I immediately think of that, and then that just sours it. But
just don't do it.
Growing up, do you remember the Ronald Reagan versus Michael Dukakis commercial, or was it George Bush the first versus? I can't remember which one was against Dukakis. It might have been George Bush
I
one.
think it was George Bush. I think it was George.
Yeah,
It was Bush.
when
Just
he would
after flew up
show
over the Japanese
that
ambassador.
Boston Harbor or whatever, and it was all the trash and the litter, and all I can think of when I think of beaches up in that area, or just that's my mental image.
It's that commercial.
It's that commercial.
I'm sure David can't wait to come now.
Yeah, Dave, don't worry about the hazmat suit. Leave the bathing suit at home. We got the hazmat suit.
So Pat brings up it's great to see how authentically you guys are about helping your members. That's what counts. I understand why the members are so guarded of the group. Congrats.
Yeah.
So it comes from this, and I wrote some of this stuff down because I think there are good points that we want to make. Like whether you're attending one or whether you are trying to put on one, either way. It's about being productive, being more effective, and it's about having a strategic mindset, right? And so you want to walk away improving those elements. And what I mean by that is it should be about a strategic mindset is about how do I achieve maximum results with minimum effort?
Mm-hmm.
How do I achieve maximum? Because we can't just throw people at problems. We can't just throw money at problems. So you have to be more effective, right? How can we develop? And so how do you do those things? When you walk into it, I want people open-minded and walking away, developing clarity regarding what their long-term vision is.
Yeah.
I want people walking away and saying, you know what, that session on client retention, yeah, I'm not going to improve my retention overnight, but I've got a plan that's going to start the end of year 1, the end of year 3, and the end of year 5, get through 1 or 2 buying cycles, right, with your clients, whatever that would be. This is where my client retention percentage is going to be, because if you don't start now, you never end up getting to where you need to be. There has to be a start time, and it has to be a long-term thinking. But at the same time, I want to identify the best strategies to achieve our goals quicker and faster. That has to be part of it, right? And you brought up this with John Traver, Sandy. I want people walking away. We always give in our workbook a whole page of phenomenal questions. I think they're great questions. I think they're questions that every leader should be asking members of their team every day, every week, every month, every year. But your ability to develop the ability to ask yourself and your teammates the right questions and better questions, right? How about the ability to, and this is a challenge in masterminds when you get so many bright people in a room and they start talking, right? The ability to focus and avoid jumping from one thing to the next.
Yeah. Yep.
Laurie, you're going to help us with that this time, right?
I always tease these guys, like, do not go straight through lunch. Lunch is very important.
Yes. And then learn to approach, because everyone's going to walk away from whatever mastermind they attend. And if they attend ours, I want them to walk away and learn an approach that allows them to approach any task the most effective way possible. So they don't give up on it. A lot of people go to workshops, events, conferences. That's a great idea. They bring it up to a couple people and then nothing ever actually happens from it. But how can they approach a task or a project, right, the most effective way possible so they end up getting the results and they carry through with it?
Right.
That's what I want for people, whether it's a sponsor or a dealer member in terms of when we do our stuff. What about you guys? And then we'll kind of close up from here because we're kind of going.
Well, I was going to say
this is a long. This is a long.
This is a long one. I would say you guys would never say it, but I'm going to say it. I think a big piece of the success of the Mastermind is you two. I think having someone at the helm who does care. It's very obvious that you care about the people that are there. You're worried about ensuring that they go back with like very productive, strategic relationships and problem solving. And you're just really fun to hang out with. So I think the hosts and the people putting on the show, just be very intentional about that as well. Because this would be a very, very different conference if someone else had put it on. And I don't think it would be as fun. So I just want to say that. Wow. I think leaders at the helm are very, very important as well.
That's high praise. I'm humbled, but I have to tell you, like that, I think that is the authentic nature of what we do. Yeah. It's genuine. Like what we're doing is exactly what we wanted to do in the first place. And we're there to do for, right? Not to do by, but to do for. Right. And I will just add one thing, because I know we got to wrap here, guys. And that is that as an attendee, if you're going back and you're in a leadership capacity in your business or you own the business, going back and setting up your own little mini masterminds inside of your business, and then maybe inviting other folks in to those mastermind sessions. Maybe you're inviting clients in, maybe you're inviting strategic partners in, maybe you're even inviting competitors, friendly competitors in as well to mastermind through solutions, taking back to your business what you have learned during the mastermind session, I think is critically important. And that's what gives it the long-term benefit.
There's no reason to suffer through trying to accomplish some huge idea that could be potentially disruptive. There's no sense in trying to learn that. There's so many people that have already done it in other industries and everything else, and you just got to tap into that knowledge and use that. Yep. So, all right. So let's shut her down here. I want to thank Laurie Halter.
Thank you, Laurie Halter.
Thank you, guys. So fun.
Thank you, Scott.
And thank you for a great discussion. Listen, our goal here today was this: ultra successful people use masterminds to level up, to accomplish things that no one in the past has ever accomplished. And I wanted to be able to, whether you're attending or even putting on one and trying to help people, let's explain what true masterminds are. Yeah. Let's give you some ideas for some processes. And I think we've done that today.
We'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah, I would love your feedback. I mean, give me when you send me those messages about the T-shirts, let us know what you thought about the show. Let us know how we can improve the show.
I think we should encourage everybody to connect, across the social media platforms, and you can find each and every one of us on, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Clubhouse for sure. We'll be on Clubhouse, by the way, next week, correct?
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is.
I'm here, Laurie. It's why I'm here.
It's
this train rolling.
Keep it in mind.
Yeah.
Keep it in mind.
They make a lot of jokes about me being old, but
he's got it all locked in.
Well, sometimes the older you are, the more detailed you become, and you're just more organized.
They won't mistake me for detailed. That's for sure.
Next Tuesday night at 7:00. All right.
Yes.
Next Tuesday. That's August 2nd, correct?
Yes.
That is
August
correct.
2nd.
Yes.
So we're going to open up the Business Bourbon and Cigar Club, and we'll name that room. We'll name it exactly the Mastermind. If I'm allowed this many characters into a name.
No
The
acronym.
Mastermind group model for the ultra successful, how to make it work. That'll be the room name. And we'll get a lot of people on stage from a bunch of different verticals to come in, and let's talk about masterminds, what they like, what they don't like. And quite honestly, we'll probably be able to improve our own event from a lot of that feedback, but hopefully we give a lot of ideas to others. And then, what's the type of mindset you want to go into one, and what can you not only pull out of it, but what can you give to one? That's the key, I think, when you're joining one.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. We don't spend a dime promoting this show. So if you like this episode, it was helpful for you, please share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Go on Apple Podcast and give us a review. We prefer the 5-star ones in the comment, but we'll take any review. But we want honesty, a core value, honesty and integrity. So we'll take that. Give us feedback. What do you like about it? What do you want to see us? What are some of the changes? What are some of the improvements you'd like to see? I'd love it. We read every one of those, actually. So we encourage you to do that. Again, I want to thank Laurie and Sandy for joining us. Thanks to the MCC Nation for joining us. If you want to continue the conversation, join us in Clubhouse Tuesday night on the 2nd at 7:00. Laurie will be coming back from a camping trip, so we cannot guarantee her. It's an auditory one, so it's an audio app. So
you can do it from the car, Laurie. You can do it from the SUV.
It's an audio. We don't have to worry about if there was running water. We don't have to worry about her condition of her hair.
Right. I'm sending everyone a picture. Maybe I'll put it on LinkedIn.
And by the way, when they show up with a bourbon or the cocktail of your choice. Nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
Let me say one final thing here, and that is make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to us on movecrushcount.com. Join our Facebook and our LinkedIn groups where people like Laurie and Sandy are in there interacting with everyone. Today's interview, or discussion, I should say, normally we do interviews, was sponsored by J&L Marketing. J&L is a digital and direct marketing agency that delivers results that help you outsmart your toughest competitors, so you don't have to outspend them. And I'm going to give you something for free. The first 10 people get the T-shirts if you message me. But if you message me as well, for the first 5 people, I can't do this for 10, I'm going to do something that's going to help you immediately outmarket your competitors. So one way to outsmart your competitors is you have to know what they're advertising. More importantly, you have to know which ads they're running are actually having the biggest impact on stealing market share from you. Which ads are they running that are most effective for them? And where are your biggest opportunities? So if you're interested in getting this report and this information without having to work for it and spend hours trying to accumulate all that data or spend money trying to do it, message me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. I'll save you hours of time and money. You'll receive insights that are going to deliver the most actionable, tactical, and timely digital marketing tips that you need to move the crowd, crush your competition, and count the money. I'm Scott Joseph. Thanks for joining us on Move, Crush, Count. I'll speak for Laurie, who had she did not pay her internet bill.
Battery died. Laptop
died.
Yeah, laptop died.
And then and Sandy Cerami. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you.